And take a few minutes, think about it, and then chime in and pass it off to the next person if you would. And if you're still thinking about it, can you hear me, everybody? Okay. If you're still thinking about it, let me start off. Maybe it'll break the ice a little bit. I think my first encounter was a long time ago when I was in high school. And we had something, it was sort of like a Black student union, but it was mixed with Black student union and religious rights. So that was my first encounter, and it was so long ago. Like I said, I was in high school. Okay. Let me pass it off to, let's see, Amy. Amy. Hello. Okay. You know, everybody is on mute.
Yeah, hold on. I had to get to my phone. I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. My first experience, I remember deeply was when I was getting involved in the HIV Planning Council back in the day here in Portland. And we were fighting for women to be able to get tested, to be able to get resources. And so I joined the HIV Planning Council.
Yeah.
And so we were able to get women services during that session. So that was really inspiring, you know, for me. That just kind of started me on my journey in the advocacy.
Good. Good. Who do you want to pass it off to, Amy?
Well, I can't see all who's here on the phone. I only get a single screen view. So I'll let you go ahead and assign that.
Okay. Tia?
I like Thea too, a mix of Thea and me. Okay, I am Tia Palafox. My pronouns are she, her. I am a member of the Behavioral Health Subcommittee, and the first group that I was in that was a service to others was actually, and then I'll get to the fighting for equality, was when I was in, and it just made such an impact on my life, was in the 9th grade, I went on a Mexico mission trip to help build this foster orphanages in Tijuana. And really impacted my life working with the Mexican village there, and made me want to serve. I felt like I was just a servant after that. And then when I was 20, I became a leader of the Minority Student Achievement Network to close the achievement gap for the Eugene School District, and have always wanted to be fighting for justice and equity. Just always I would feel like I was born with wanting things to be fair and to serve others. So pretty young age, and working in Mexico and then with my own school district.
Good.
Thank
Good.
you.
Claudia, you want to participate? I think you're muted.
There we are. Sorry, I'm trying to fix the link for the agenda. It's like when I put it on the doc, for some reason it doesn't update. But my first group interaction was in middle school. I don't know if some of you are familiar with Step Up. It's a program here in Portland that focuses on youth. And it really kept me busy. After school, we would go to like various activities. And then I think another group that I actually was part of was a youth program at Life Change, which is in North Portland church. So I think that just having these youth programs available to me at such a young age in middle school really just helped me to like stay on the right path. And I'm just so thankful to have been able to be part of those youth programs. And I've made like long lasting friendships that I still like talk to people now.
Good.
So thank you.
Good.
I will pass it to Theo.
Thanks, Claudia. Theo Lada, UCM pronouns. It's nice to see everyone. I was trying to think back and go real deep into the memory banks. Most of my jobs have been in culturally specific services, specifically with Native American folks. I worked at NARA a bunch of years, the Native American Rehabilitation Association, and I worked in Indian education previously. But my first like thing that I got into was when I was 12. That was when I was 12. It was 2001. So that's a little bit of dating myself. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand like the meaning of.
Yes.
I didn't understand why folks were trying to go and invade other countries. Really, I didn't like it. Didn't sit well with me. So me and a group of friends, we didn't know how to advocate. We didn't know how to do anything. We would just pass newspapers around because that's when newspapers still existed. And we would talk about like how we can possibly stop this, and we get on our soapboxes and just kind of have like discussions about how this could be stopped in some way. And none of it was even remotely plausible. But that was my first experience in like trying to think about social justice and advocacy for a cause that was important to me and I felt passionate about. So that's fun. What a fun question. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll pass it to Jared.
Okay.
Thanks, Theo. And let me echo that the commendation for the question, Gloria. I think it's an excellent one to get to know folks. My name is Jared Hager. I'm an attorney with the U.S. Department of Justice, and I'm here in my role as the monitor of a settlement agreement between the United States and the city of Portland regarding police reform and community engagement, and PCCEP is one part of those of the requirements of the settlement agreement. I was thinking back, and I think for me, what's most memorable, you know, when I chose to join an organization was when I was a young lawyer in Seattle, and I joined a group called ProVail to join their board of directors and advance their mission, which is to help people with disabilities fulfill their life choices, enabling folks with all sorts of disabilities to do what they want. And it was meaningful to me because I was working for a corporate law firm and, you know, kind of defending the man in a different way than with the government. But it was a little soul sucking. And so to use that position as a young lawyer in a big law firm to join a board of directors and volunteer was really meaningful to me. And I got to choose, you know, really amongst a lot of different opportunities, and I ended up serving on the board for 8 years while I was there. And it was an excellent opportunity for me to get involved in the community. And as a person with a disability, it was, you know, especially meaningful to me to be able to empower other people to fulfill their life choices, because I've had it pretty good. I appreciate that question, Gloria. Thank you. And I will pass it to Zainab.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zainab Folk, she, her pronoun. So as I've been sitting here thinking about this question, it just brings me back to my childhood in Portland, Oregon. You know, when I think about the Black United Front, I know, Gloria, you're familiar with that.
Yes, I was a member.
Yes, I apparently was not a member, but I was a youth activist.
You were one of our children.
Yes, I was.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing was when I competed with others to go to Cuba to represent us at a international youth conference. And so that was my first global experience on activism. You know, but I always remember being pulled up on the stage this day of at a Black United Front March Against Racist Violence to do a speech, to present. And someone brought it up to me in 2016 when I returned back home. And I'm like, is your name Zainab Johnson? I'm like, how did you know? Like, how do you know that last name? because I went by that name because it was tied with my family, but my legal name is Folk. So that is my earliest experience, but I've always been an activist. Any place I've been, lived, breathed, I'm an activist. And so as I am passionate about the work here, thank you.
Yes. You want to pass it off?
I'm sorry.
You can't see the
sorry.
screen. That's okay.
Sorry, I took my glasses off. Shailene, is it Shailene Morris?
Yeah, that's how you say it. You said it right. Yay. I'll come on camera. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is
Oh,
Shailene Morris. Pronouns are she, her. I am a subcontractor with the Cocal team, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate the question. I had to pull up the agenda and stare at the question and then think back. And I was just like, oh, wow. I feel older than what I am, so it took me a minute. But I think my first engagement with people fighting for justice was probably when I was in high school. It was my freshman year. And we had I was from a smaller, medium-sized suburban town in Ohio. And we had an outpouring of I remember parents were calling up and clergy because we wanted to, we had just a LGBTQIA plus, and I think they're plus, and it was like their name was that plus something else had just come on board. And it was a new student organization, and parents and clergy were calling, and they were very mad. And so allies of the group, including myself as an ally, decided to hold a day of silence in response to a day of silence that was held by clergy. We held a day of silence in school. And so we made t-shirts, and we got permission from the school, and we were silent for the whole day. And we didn't speak in order to recognize those that were in the closet and that didn't feel safe to speak. And I have, my mother is part of this queer community. And so it was really near and dear to my heart to make sure that I was like an ally that was real and represented, and put my body in front of theirs, and was able to uplift voices when I could. So that was my first experience with a justice organization, and they became pretty powerful as high school students. They were doing it. I mean, I'm a millennial, and I say Generation Z, I just protect them at all costs because they do a lot. But I was like, wait a minute, millennials did stuff too. I was there. So I think that was my first real, and I say like real, where I was able to be active with an organization and felt like I was doing something and contributing and assisting in some way. So it made me think back to that, and that was a cool memory. So thank you for that question. And I'll pass it on to Nia, my counterpart.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mia Franco, she, her pronouns. I'm also a subcontractor with the Cocal team. And I too had to kind of stare at the question and really think back. I would say my first, like the first time I ever recall even paying attention to like social issues was, I want to say I was maybe 9 or 10. I was very, for whatever reason, into the presidential election at that point. So I remember being very much like pro Al Gore. And as much as like a 9-year-old can be for what they understand is going on. So I like had got a sign, like one of the actual like signs that they were putting in people's front yards. And I remember like walking around the neighborhood, like shaking the sign saying, Gore Lieberman, Gore Lieberman. So that would be like my first instance of that, like of that kind of engagement.
good. Very good.
And I will pass it to Judith.
Okay.
Thank you, Nia. This is a great question, Gloria. Thank you. So I was trying to think, because my first engagement was, many of you know, because I've said, my dad was a Presbyterian minister, was very involved in the Civil Rights March. We lived outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he went down to Mississippi and then to Selma. And when he came back, he got together with Black clergy and they organized the first civil rights march that had been in New Kensington, which was the kind of part of where we lived. And I was 6 years old carrying a sign. So, and it's a big story in my family because apparently I had the sign. I was looking, I'm like, where's the TV people? Where's the camera? So I don't know what that says about me, but there you go. And so, but then later I would say, I've not been a big joiner. I mean, I financially support stuff, but when I was in my early 30s and we had, and Mulligatawny Sarab was murdered in my neighborhood, and a lot of parents and I got together and we started a loose-knit organization called the Anti-Bigotry Coalition, and we had a anti-racism march from Hawthorne Street down to City Hall, and did a lot of, got all the stores to have "No Hate Here" signs in them. So that was kind of the first, my own personal advocacy. But I grew up in a family of advocates, so did a lot of that. Is there anybody left? Claudia?
Anika and Barb.
Oh, okay, great. Anika, we have a question, which is, would you like to repeat it, Gloria? Thanks.
Yeah, it is. Let me get this out. When was the first time that you encountered working for any kind of injustice, working against it? You know, clubs, organizations.
Oh boy, I don't know if I could say it's clubs or organizations, but I would say a lot of
Church.
No, a lot of my work has been in terms of public service. I worked at New York City's Administration for Children's Services shortly after law school, and then the New York City Department of Correction as well. But unless maybe I'm having brain fog, but I am not certain I could come up with something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do enough now.
Definitely busy, but yeah, there's always stuff going on.
I know. So should we pass it on to Barb?
We have Barb and Claudia left.
Okay. No, we did Claudia.
I'm sorry, Claudia. How embarrassing. Barb. And Sarah just got
enough that she let me into the meeting. I think while she was telling her story from her childhood, I was like, that was really cool. I think that honestly, the first time I got involved in anything was at the Southeast County Health Center, where I was getting medical care, and I was asked by the community health worker if I wanted to join the Consumer Advisory Board, and they had good lunches, and I thought, sure. And that has led to a lot of this, period. My name is Barb. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a PCCEP groupie.
Good. I think that we have all had it. Now, did I miss anyone? Sarah, I'm sorry, Sarah Ames.
Oops. Uh-oh.
Okay.
I was just looking up the agenda to see what the prompt was, something about how we first got involved in activism or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm so old, it's been a while. But I do remember one really formative time was when I was an exchange student in Amman, Jordan. I went to a school where I met a lot of people who demanded that I explain the US policy in the Middle East as, you know, their best American friend. And so at that point, that kind of was really an awakening point, both in being a minority and having to speak for my entire country. That was a very formative experience for me, and kind of, you know, woke me up to thinking more politically and strategically.
That's good. You've been around a long time, involved a long time. Very good. All right, now, have I forgotten anyone? Did I leave anybody out? Okay. Well, Well, I just wanted to make this statement. No matter what our involvement was, it all centers around some kind of service, some kind of service that we did to LBG, or service we did for out of the country where we had to speak out, or early experiences like a Black Student Union, or Black United Front, or whatever we did, whether it was with our church or whether it was whatever group. I think it's service oriented, and that's probably what brought us to PCCEP. I'm thinking this is a good group of people to work with, and we have some differences, but I think we're more alike than what we would like to believe. So, saying that, let's go on. Down the agenda. I think number 2 was we were going to get a name and a date for the Youth Speak Out. And this was my thinking on it. I know that youth have a lot to say. They're just not speaking to us. And I know that racial equality and justice is at the forefront of probably every youth's agenda. However, we're not getting that message. So I rethought the Speak Out, and we had originally said we were going to pick a date in February, but I was rethinking the focus, and I thought perhaps maybe if we can't get the youth to come to us, maybe we should get a speaker that the youth are familiar with, and then maybe they'll tune in and listen to what that speaker has to say. And we can advertise it through Celestic Cable, and we can do a better job of advertising than we've been doing, just taking flyers out and disseminating them to different groups of interest. I think that I'm gonna back off and let me hear from the rest of you. What do you think? Anybody? Oh, Zainab, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thanks, Gloria. And yeah, I went back to the YouTube just to find out what happened in the last meeting so that I can get caught up where we are. And so, yeah, I was expecting the February date. But, the first thing I thought about, the question I wrote down was, what is the overall objective? Because that could also help us know in planning what we're looking to do. And I know some of it was recruitment to the youth subcommittee, but I also saw some messaging in here about who can actually be on the committee versus those who are participant and members. And so it'll be nice just to know what the overall objective is.
The overall
this particular is it, you said Speak Out?
Yes, racial equity and justice. And I think a lot of youth are concerned with that, especially given the fact that we're losing a lot of youth. Okay, go on, I'm sorry.
So is it related to youth being able to have a voice about this topic?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, okay, and so I loved your idea about going out to them, like meeting them where they are, or at least getting them engaged in something that they would want to participate in. Because it's all what I found with working with young people, it's hard to know these days, especially after COVID. How do we get, or during COVID or whatever we're going through, how do we get people engaged to actually show up, participate, and what gets them engaged to show up and participate? That's been a very hard thing for me to get a grasp on these days because of all the changes in our world. But I love the fact that if it's for a voice, that we really look to meet them where they are. Thanks.
Yes, because we've had problems and we've been recruiting all over the city. Tia can speak to that later when we ask for reports. And you've been helping. A lot of us have been out there, but it's youth have their own group and they feel comfortable with that group and they feel comfortable speaking out to their own. But I'm thinking if we could get a speaker, pay to have a speaker come in, that they recognize that perhaps maybe we could have a call-in line and youth could call in. Or Zainab, you and I discussed going to some of the youth meetings because they're happening, but you have to have an invitation to get into that kind of meeting. So we have a lot to do. Yes, Zainab. I'm sorry.
Not to dominate the conversation, but I just wrote down a focus group could also be a helpful way to also launch this speak out. Is if you have, I know that there's money somewhere. I'm not sure if you've used your budget already, but
No.
paying stipends or paying like I'm not sure, for them to join on a focus group and then to give their own thoughts about how to approach this. You know, trying to solicit young people's information. I know of a couple of young people who probably would just come and just to solicit, so they can get a little extra cash or whatever we offer. But they would join a focus group to help, plan for this. So let's think outside of every box, I guess.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I think Amy and then Judith had her hand up. Am I going correct? Okay. Amy?
Yeah, real quick, my thought was maybe we can contact Lakiana and Taji. They were really good at organizing all kinds of folks for a gathering conversation. And Lakiana has Word is Bond, which targets the young men. So maybe we should ask him where to go.
I reached out to him, but right now he says his group is so busy and they're focused on doing their own thing. So, but it doesn't,
yeah.
I will reach out to him again. It doesn't hurt to continue to ask. But at the same time, I would like for us to start thinking about a speaker, someone to come in and speak to the needs of the youth. And Judith, I see your hand.
Thank you, Gloria. I just wanted to pipe up that, I'm very aware that as we get new members, the history isn't always clear. I just wanted to say before COVID hit, we had such an active youth group. It was, they were in the process of, they had gotten permission from Portland Public Schools to do a survey. They had been, we really did have a good, strong group of folks. Britt and Taji really led that group with a lot of support from Theo. That was so we did have there was a big interest. I think one of the things that I noticed also though was that one of their biggest issues were youth resource officers in the schools.
Yes.
And, that it was decided to not have the youth resource officers in the schools. And I think that, that probably might also have shifted some of their thinking, because that was, I would say, Theo, if that's fair to say, that was one of their primary issues, were their interactions with police through the school police. So just for some historical context, they have had really robust engagement in the past. And Gloria, you probably know, I think Claudia was going to be meeting with the youth council, the Multnomah Youth Commission.
It's the Multnomah Youth Commission. Yeah, so I have a meeting set up with, 1 second, trying to charge my laptop. Here we go. So I set up a meeting with the Multnomah Youth Commission staff person, and so we're just gonna connect and kind of just see where both we can just intertwine the work, and then I was planning to get back to you guys.
Good. You're going to take the flyers and the applications that we have, right? That youth applications with you?
Well, I'm meeting her on Zoom. So, but yeah, I will be sharing it with her via email.
Okay. And on the applications, Zainab, in answer to your question about the stipend, it does mention that we pay a stipend. So.
Well, I was more thinking about just giving, like, you give people, you know, gift cards or food cards or whatever. I was putting something in the chat and it just went away. I just want to share something about maybe music artists or hip hop artists or pop culture artists that young people identify with. That could be a way, and not just performing, but perhaps having conversations. And if you're interested, let's talk about that.
Okay, that's good. Good idea. Any other hands that I'm missing? Okay, then we're moving down to where we can get reports back from outreach. Byron is not here, I don't think, but Byron did do some outreach where he handed out flyers, but the majority of the recruitment came from Tia. And Tia, do you want to report on that? You're on mute, Tia. Tia, you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay. I sent you all the chart that I was using, but I didn't make a copy of it. So I will try to memorize what I'm just trying. I sent all the emails out to my assigned high schools and agencies, youth agencies that work with unhoused kids who are not in schools, but I'm starting to meet with vice principals tomorrow. I've contacted Jefferson, Grant, Central Catholic, Cleveland, McDaniels, De La Salle, New Avenues for Youth, Outside In for Youth, PAIR, the Q Center, NAACP, Imagine Black, Multnomah County Youth Services, the Community Healing Initiative, and Rights Justice, Youth Rights Justice Organization. And I'm starting to go to the schools to meet with people. Tomorrow, I'm going to McDaniels to meet with the vice principal. Let's see what I'm hearing from, like my contact at Lewis and Clark. She ran Fridays for Freedom during the Black Lives Matter movements this last summer. What I'm hearing from her in Dallas at Portland State University are very activists, or they're just so busy. But that's why I was asking Theo what the minimum would be in being involved, because they're just so overwhelmed and busy doing their activism on campus. So I'm hearing that people are just so swamped. What's the bare minimum they can do if they get involved? Like someone like Adia in Dallas were talking about how maybe they could give ideas, but they just don't know how much they can actually be involved, because as activists, they're just so busy. The incentives offered, the stipend is really helpful. And at high schools, when I talk with the counselors and career centers, it's more geared towards the upperclassmen. Juniors and seniors would be more apt to do something like this. And everyone at this point is applying for colleges and have their resumes pretty full already. It's hard times getting youth recruited, but there are several agencies that do similar work that we do. And that's what in my email that I sent you last night, that I could send everyone. I'm looking at my notes. Imagine Black, Multnomah County Youth Services, the Community Healing Initiative, and the Youth Rights Justice Program, as well as the NAACP Education Committee, all have the same mission, it seems like, as this committee. I feel like, and I made a list of people who would be like good keynote speakers and who could collaborate with us on crucial talking points. And, but I didn't call every single person that I recommended. I just I like to share the responsibilities, but I did make a chart of the people who I said I would be assigned to and that I would reach out to. But like with the Department of Education, I listed all the people that I knew that would be able to provide guidance and do this work for youth and equity and justice and inclusion. So I only sent that to who I know has been going to the meetings. So Gloria, Byron, Theo, and IACC CNAB as well. And because I knew she was getting involved as well, but I don't know what else I can do right now. At Portland State University, they have the criminology and criminal justice program. And so I sent all the information to them. And at Reed College, they have a Office of Institutional Diversity. So I'm looking up what colleges have programs that are close to our mission and sending via email the flyers and the applications. But I want to actually go into the schools and talk to people because I really like connecting. And so I'm starting to do that. The Q Center website was down last week. No one was in last week. I'm going to the Q Center tomorrow too on Mississippi.
Good.
So I'm starting to just actually go and bring flyers to them and talk to them about the committee, but I haven't really done a lot about the youth forum because I guess because I wasn't assigned that. I was telling everyone on the email, as you saw, because I CC'd you.
Yes.
That's coming up and to let us know if they're interested in joining and participating and helping us plan it. But I didn't do all of that work.
I got back to Noni, the person over the NAACP Education Committee, and they had to cancel their Black Museum.
Right.
She has some free time, and I'm going to try and see if perhaps she might not want to be in on the planning. I invited her to this meeting, but it's obvious that she might have had something else to do, or she's on the phone listening. But anyway, I'm going to do a follow-up with her.
Okay.
We'll see. That's why I thought about, putting on the agenda the date. I know that I would like for it to be, all of us would like for it to be youth speaking out, but I think that it can be centered around youth issues and that maybe they will speak out. So I'm looking at a spring date, and I still don't have the spring date in mind, but I think we're going to need more than February to plan this up, especially if we want the support of the youth. It'll give us a little bit more time.
Can I say one more thing and I'll pass it to Zainab? I went to the Building Bridges Summit. I think I have a note in my phone. And that's where I met, I can't see, I think I wrote it down. Sorry. At Cleveland, Anu King was one of the speakers from Cleveland High School at the Building Bridges 2021 conference. And I would encourage you to watch that that YouTube video. I watched the one before in 2020, and then I attended the 2021 one. I'm trying to find the information on my, sorry.
That's okay.
Information on my phone about it. Building, here it is, okay. It was the Building Bridges Annual Summit. It was called Building Bridges of Understanding in Our Communities. What is public safety was the question. And it was through the Muslim Education Trust. It was excellent with, there was sheriffs and police officers, students, speakers from law enforcement, juvenile justice programs, mental health agencies. And it was really well organized, and that's where I met Anu, and she was just so passionate about youth safety as a young Black woman. And she was a high school student, and I reached out to her, but I never heard back from her. And Cleveland said they passed out flyers to all the classes, and when they just said they didn't have much interest from students.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people aren't interested. I think it's just finding the right people at the right time. Yes. Anyway, building bridges was a really great summit that I went to that seems like something that we're trying to replicate.
Zainab and then Theo, you might wanted to say something on the colleges, but Zainab, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Tia. And also, I really appreciate getting your report and all the work that you've been doing with PCCEP too. One of the things when you both start talking, I thought about, oh, I have a meeting tomorrow. The other side of my role with Kukatanen is with the Racial Equity and Social Justice Division. And I thought immediately, oh, maybe you both or you, Gloria, and others subcommittee members could possibly do a presentation with them. And what if you have something to share with me in regards to something I can give to them tomorrow, I'll at least try to slip it in to, through the notes on the Zoom chat, because I think it's important to engage where, say, where is the money? Banks. Where are kids? Schools. And so why are we not tapping into where they are?
Yeah.
And also aligning with them. And there's other different departments that I worked with, when we were launching some programs last year that is helpful to getting the information out to the schools. And so when you just said that, I was like, okay, let's not try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But one of the things I heard you say, Tia, and I love the fact that Building Bridges and the Muslim Equity Trust was able to do that work, is possibly why not tap into them and find out, would they be supportive or aligned with PCCEP to do it once again in different ways. And so that's just what I was hearing. And thank you again.
Good. Theo?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've reached out to the READ, a variety of different programs in READ, because there's something called a READ bubble, right? So it's difficult for folks in READ to get out of the bubble. It's a bunch of smart cookies who really stay there because they have a lot of work to do. But they have programs within their institutions specifically to get folks out of that bubble and to really try to make inroads in social justice. So I've reached out and invited a bunch of people. I actually went to speak at READ once to speak specifically about the PCCEP and the youth program and the opportunities there. So that was good. Also, I've spoken to Portland State University of Portland, even the Pacific Northwest College of Art. So a variety of different, and PCC. So Lewis and Clark, yeah, I actually am a student at Lewis and Clark. So lots of folks know about the PCCEP at Lewis and Clark, including my cohort members, and they're all educators here in Portland or the Pacific Northwest generally, but the majority in Portland. So it's really just about finding folks who have the time right now. A lot of, and like, it's easy to say that you have the time because a lot of folks work from home, but there's still not that much time to dedicate to this kind of thing to folks who haven't experienced it yet, right?
Yeah.
So it's like an intimidating thing. So part of my conversation is really just trying to get people to come to a meeting, like not saying you should sign up, you should become a member, just come to a meeting, just come and hang out, listen, you don't have to say anything. And so that's been my messaging around that. So yeah, there's a lot of criminal justice programs, but it's not just the criminal justice programs that are interested in this. So I went and spoke at Warner Pacific not too long ago, and I spoke in one of their classrooms that had nothing to do. It was just like a basic history class. It had nothing to do with social justice or criminal justice or anything like that. But it's still interesting to some folks. But it's just about getting folks in, because like Tia said, people are interested in this. It's just about getting folks in the door or to click on the link.
Yes. What do you all think about, I'm not too sure of when spring break happens in Portland. I think it's around the second week in March, but I'm not sure. But I said if we shot for a date like that, perhaps maybe we could get, well, a lot of students go home too. I was gonna say maybe we could get more buy-in if we had it during a spring break or the week before spring break. Be thinking about a date. We do know that February is probably not a realistic date because I had February the 7th or the 21st. It's not realistic. Group, what do you think? Do you agree or disagree?
I see that Jared has his hand up.
Well, I wasn't going to answer that question. I had some comments to make. So I think Zainab was answering Gloria's question.
Yeah, Gloria, unfortunately, in my planning during that time, especially last year, it was not a good time. It wasn't even a good time for the schools. I'll be honest with you. What I would think is, it has to be, depending on how you're planning this and what we're trying to do. I would say give yourself enough time, because we're already moving into February. Give yourself enough time to get all the pieces together, and possibly should be after spring break. But what you can do is feed the information to them starting, before spring break, and then reminding them after spring break as the way to get their participation. But from my own experience last year, that was one of the toughest times to launch a program that we were actually paying for. I'll just tell you that. So. You're on mute, Gloria.
How about that? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Well, if we're gonna get a speaker, we certainly need to contact the speaker and nail down a time. So we have a lot more work to do, I'm afraid. Theo and I got together and we developed, or there were some questions developed that we wanted to kind of like have the students, the youth think about. And I won't share them at this time, but we do have a questionnaire. Right now, we only have 5 questions. So if any of the rest of you on the committee have questions that you want to throw out there to the youth, please let me know so that I can add them.
Gloria, real quick, I don't want Jared's comments to get, or questions to get lost.
Jared, it's your turn.
Thank you, Gloria, and thank you, Theo. I wanted to comment based on what I heard from Tia and Zainab and Theo too. I think the outreach that you've done, Tia and Zainab, it's remarkable. And you too, Gloria. It's fantastic. It's essential to the mission. And what I want to know personally in my role as the monitor is how can I support you doing that? And if I have a role to play, let me know. And more particularly, if the city could do something to support you in doing that, I would like to know. And I have constant conversations with Theo, and we'll chat again. And Claudia, I'd love to hear from you, and Judith too, but more so to the members. I'm gonna throw up my email again and my phone number. And so if there's anything I can do, I want to be of service to you. If having the Department of Justice lend some weight to your thing, I mean, I can see it being a negative too. So, you know, just let me be at your disposal. And then more particularly, if you have ideas or ways you think the city could support you better, I need to know that, because that's part of my role as being a plaintiff in a lawsuit against a defendant, is knowing what the defendant could do to make you guys more successful. I mean, I just think it's amazing to hear the effort you're putting out there, Tia and Zainab and Gloria, to do this recruitment. I really do think it's fantastic, and I want you to be supportive. And if I can do it, you know, let me know how. And if the city could do it, let me know what they could do better to help you, or what they are doing, and how we might be able to get, you know, some economies of scale, or, you know, force multipliers. So please do use that phone number and that email, you know, any time of day or night. I'm usually working. So I really appreciate all you're doing. Thank you.
I put out a message to you. I don't know if you got it. You were on the plane, but I said when you got back, I'd like to get a date together so I can talk to you. And at the same time, we can talk about this. What would be DOJ's role in supporting us?
And I responded to that, Gloria. Did you not get it? I might need to resend it, or maybe if there's a better email to reach you at.
Okay.
I did get that and I replied, but maybe it just got lost in the cracks. So you let me know, and the phone number always works too, if that's easier.
Okay. I sent you a phone number as well.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, now, anyone else want to add anything to this?
Gloria, real quick, can you just kind of sum up what you have so far, so that we are figuring, because I'm trying to understand, are we doing the speak out?
We are, but we're not doing it in February.
Okay, and so we're looking for a date. All right, and then you're looking for a speaker or speakers.
Let me go
okay.
back. Let me go back and give you, because other people might want to know, they might have missed something. We started with the icebreaker, and then we talked about the committee reports on recruitment. And then we talked about the fact that there was an application already out and flyers, and our people are taking them around as they go to recruit. We talked about the name, and we still don't have a name. I have Youth Speak Out, but because we don't have any youth to speak out, we're gonna have to change that. So if you have an idea, anybody on the committee, for the name for this Speak Out that we're gonna have, let me know.
Gloria, I'm sorry, you're saying that the youth are going to be speaking out. So it doesn't mean that we have to have the youth, we're giving them a platform, right?
Yeah.
For them to speak out. Okay.
Yeah. So you think we should go with it?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, if everybody else is in agreement, it's fine with me. I like the name too. And then because Celeste isn't here tonight, I'm going to reach out to her and see if I can't get her to plug us on cable. And then perhaps maybe I can get with her and I can speak about what's on our flyer and let them know to be looking or listening for a date and a place and a time. And then I talked about the questions that I have, and if any of you have questions that you think should be added to the survey that we're going to give to the youth, just let me know, please. Does that bring you up, Zainab?
Yeah, is it possible to get an electronic copy of this flyer? And do you already like, if we give questions, how many questions you already have so far?
I only have 5.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay.
And what I'm gonna do is just reach out to young people just to see what kind of questions they may want to add to this. So it's not gonna be from me, it's gonna be from others. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Barb, I see your message in the chat. Thank you so much. Barb.
Yeah, you don't have to yell. I can hear you.
Oh, good.
You're welcome.
Good, kiddo. All right.
Hey, wait,
Well, that's good. Thank you.
wait, Gloria.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I can hear you.
Okay, hi. Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments?
Gloria, oh, sorry, go ahead, Theo. Oh, I was just gonna say, so, I'm writing the minutes right now, but I just want to clear that, so you want to go with the name Youth Speak Out for the
Yes.
event? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And then Zainab asked, could she get a copy of the agenda?
The flyer, right?
Flyer sent to her.
Okay, no problem. I put it in the chat, Azina, but I can post it. I can send you the PDF and the image in the email. So you can share the PDF with folks as well, because the PDF will actually just take them straight to the application, and the image, the photo image will just be like the full extent of the details for the youth recruitment.
Sorry,
Hey,
sorry,
can
I couldn't see it there. Maybe I.
It's okay, I can resend it.
Okay, if you can, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And then public libraries, that was a good comment. If we could put our flyers in the public libraries, that would be good. Okay, anyone else have a comment or anything that they want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that Celeste put out an open invite to some PCEP members to come and speak on KBOO about the PCEP, which would be a really good opportunity to express what the subcommittees are doing. So I think the subcommittee chairs would probably have a good time speaking on that. And Celeste helps run KBOO, so that would be a cool thing.
Yes, yes, I think
She
so.
sent that out. When did she send that out, Theo?
Well, she said it at her last racial equity subcommittee meeting.
That she would. Mhm. All right. I see Judith put in the chat that Celeste wasn't feeling well, but intends to be at the steering committee meeting tomorrow. So that's good. We look forward to seeing her there. Hope she's better. All right, people. Anything else?
Yeah, Gloria, let me pop in if I can to again introduce Shailene and Nia. They are working with the COCO and doing outreach and public engagement, and they are both, we were meeting with them before this meeting and said we'd be meeting, invited them to pop in tonight to just talk a little bit about the intent with the body worn camera event, which we have found a date for. So I'm going to say, take it away, Shailene.
Good.
Thanks, Judith. Hi again, Shailene Morris. Yes, me and my what do I say, partner in crime, colleague Nia Franco, also sometimes partner in crime. We are subcontracting with the COCO team to do a number of things, and one of our first big tasks is to help with community engagement around the incoming body-worn cameras into Portland. And just as background, we do similar work in Seattle. We do have full-time jobs working in Seattle, working in community, doing police oversight there in Seattle. Here in Seattle, I'm currently in Seattle. And now we do consulting policy work on the side, and we are fortunate enough to now work with the COCO team in Portland. So we're really excited about that. So part of the work that we're doing is to kind of assist and uplift the work of receiving community input and feedback about the coming body-worn camera program. What community would like to see, what they wouldn't like to see, if they have thoughts and ideas. And we know that they do and that they have. And so we're hoping to gather more of that input and send it up to the city as PPB and the city works toward implementing that program, bringing a vendor on board and crafting a policy. And so our hope is to build upon the work that was started, I believe in 2019 by PCCEP, by PPB, by talking about when there was the conversation around having body-worn cameras in the first place. And now that we know they're coming, and now that it's been 2 years later, we've gone through COVID, the demonstrations of 2020 after the murder of George Floyd, things look different. And so there could be differences of opinion, but now we're not just talking about if they're coming, but now that they're coming, what does the community want to see within their public safety system when it comes to cameras? So as we uplift the work for the COCL team in order to garner feedback, we are really excited about partnering with PCCEP in the work to have this community forum. It will be based online, mostly for the safety for COVID, but also I have found, at least here in Seattle, that having a lot of our meetings on Zoom has greatly increased accessibility for folks to be able to join a meeting. They don't have to travel somewhere, things are going on, but also there's a safety factor. So still be on the platform. And I was working, Nia and I were speaking with Judith and Theo and Claudia right before here. We were talking about how just the logistics of having the meeting still on Zoom and the platform, the flyer, the date. The meeting is going to be January 23rd, so a Sunday from 6 to 8. We've heard that that has had a decent turnout for folks. It just seems like a good time for people to be able to take the time to log into a meeting and have meaningful conversation if they feel comfortable. So we're still working with folks that are going to join us as far as panelists and people that will help to guide the conversation, facilitate of sorts. And we are hoping to have not just a feedback listening session, but enable a space for folks to have conversation with each other, people from the city, so we can actually get real feedback from them, and then send that feedback up to PPB, up to the city, and report out as the COCL team of here's what we heard, here's what we recommended, here's what we sent to the city, and then kind of leave an open question for the city and PPB to then fill in a later date of here's what we did with this information. So we don't want it to be, I don't like to call them listening sessions because that doesn't imply that we're going to do anything with that. The implication here is that we plan to send this information up and out and then continue to let the community know what we do with the information and what we've heard thus far. So some of the details have been worked out as far as dates with the COCL team and with the city attorney's office. We were able to come to agreement there with the January 23rd. So now we're going to be moving pretty quickly on our end with the logistics of forming it, sending out invitations. And fortunately, we've had people from the city attorney's office, from PPP, from the advisory boards, and then community groups and PCCEP, the staff been really helpful connecting us to folks. So as we start to send out, once we craft the invitational language, once we send these invitations out, Nia and I are hoping to leave ourselves open to conversation with folks if they want to talk a little bit more about what is this? What is this going to look like? What can I tell our people, our respective communities, so we can get folks to also show up and feel like they're going to be heard. So I anticipate having a lot of meetings like this with people, which is totally fine. And I hope that because we also want to build a relationship with people in the community as we continue our work on the COCL team outside of community engagement, but with other issues here. And so I said just a whole bunch just now. It feels like I've been talking all day. But that's what we have coming down the pipeline. So in just 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from yesterday, hopefully a robust community forum in the evening with community, with city stakeholders present, with PPP present, and see if we can kind of dig back into this issue and give folks an opportunity to be heard and to tell us what they want and what they don't want. Community is very informed these days, as we all know. And so it's a really exciting time to have these kind of forums and hear from folks.
Yeah.
So that's where we are right now. Nia, did I miss anything? I always ask her if I miss anything because I feel like I ramble.
Nope, perfect as always.
Oh, stop. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'll be quiet now.
You have some questions.
Sarah?
Yeah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Nia. Hi, everybody. Hi, Theo and Gloria. Thank you for letting us join in. I just wanted to say, you heard from Jared that he is both here as a resource and as a compliance officer, because of course he is watching to make sure we have a effective city support for PCCEP and your committees. And that is also to somewhat my role. I mean, Anika's been here for a long time working with you all and kind of offering the legal advice and some of the standard kind of city attorney things. But I'm also here because, we, as part of the settlement agreement, want to have a fully supported and functioning PCEP. And I would encourage you, I'm glad that you're partnering with Nia and Shailene and Kokol, and the resources they bring and the experience they bring, which I'm really excited about in the community engagement and running this. But they also are, it's Kokol, it's compliance officer and community liaison. So they're watching to make sure that you have the support you need from the city. And they're also offering support in the community liaison role. So it's kind of a, they've got a few hats where they're coming to engage with you on this. And I would encourage you, I'm really very impressed, as you've just heard, with Nia and Shailene's experience in this area and ability to kind of offer some ways of thinking about doing the community outreach that could probably, there's some mutual benefit, and they've asked PCEP to kind of co-sponsor this. So, use them too, as well as letting them, kind of examine us to see if we're complying. And I would encourage you too, to have that same thought with me. I've been working with Shailene and Nia a little bit to kind of say, oh, these are some thoughts I have about community organizations, because I've lived and worked in this town for a long time doing community outreach. So I've got some thoughts, and I've forwarded some of my links to them. You've got connections. Tia, I just heard you rattle off a crazy impressive list of people that you've reached out to. So I just think if we all we're better together. If we all kind of work together to make this work well, we'll be best off. And I really encourage you to see all of us on this call, not just the volunteers, not just the straight up PCEP staff, but we're all resources to help this committee and PCEP be successful. So that's a kind of rambling. Now I'm rambling, so I'll sign off, but thank you for letting me say my piece.
Thank you for your support. Zainab? Your hand is up.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm not sure if this was on the agenda, but I do have a lot of questions because I know it wasn't on our last full board meeting. The Kokol, what you just shared, Shailene. So there's no disrespect to what you just shared. I think it's wonderful, but I do believe it's now siloed into this one subcommittee and not to our full PCEP members. And so how are all of our PCEP members going to be informed about this, and also the community to have had this as a co-sponsorship? And so who agreed to this co-sponsorship? Are you new to Kokol, Shailene?
Yes. Yeah, I can start with those questions and work my way back if that's okay. Yes, so Nia and I are new to the Kokol team. We started, I want to say mid to end of October. So new, but also getting pretty well acclimated after a few months to the Kokol team. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold. So if I cough time to time, it's unexpected. So we are relatively new to the team, and we were doing some other work to support, primarily as policy folks. That's where we work in our 9 to 5. We're policy people. We'll be doing a lot more kind of like report writing, some analysis, policy analysis, things of that nature. And then also the other 50%, I think, of our time will be stuff like this community engagement, because it's a lot of the work that we also do now. So just to give a background for that, we do plan on presenting to PCEP at large. Thankfully, Claudia, Theo, and Judith have also invited us to your steering committee tomorrow, so we'll also be present there to have this conversation. As far as when it comes to the partnership between Kokol and PCEP, a lot of that, this isn't it's above me now. It's more of our leadership and their leadership with folks like Ann Kimball and then Dennis Rosenbaum on our side, having conversation of, let's do this partnership, let's talk together. And the folks from CAO and DOJ kind of being in this conversation. Nia and I, our job is to kind of take the direction and then turn it into the partnership and do the logistics and run the meeting and see how best we can have a community engagement that is thoughtful and deliberate and intentional. So as far as some of the decisions, it's not that I can't answer them. It's more of, I might not have been there for all of them from the beginning. So it's not to scapegoat to anyone else. Oh, Theo, I see you raising your hand. I'm so sorry.
That
So
was
before
when,
Theo speak, I just want to make sure I got clarity. Did you say Ann Campbell from our PCEP committee?
She did, and that's, Theo's gonna
Okay.
explain that history.
that was when Taji, Lakiana, and Ann were the co-chairs, and that's when they were comprised of the steering committee when this first conversation started happening. It wasn't just them, it was a variety of different folks. The COCL really asked if the PCEP would be interested, PCEP co-chairs and Ann in her role as a secretary would be interested in helping with the conversation, with PCEP being the vessel to get more community input on something like body cameras, because in the mediation, it seemed like body cameras were going to happen no matter what. So it was about framing the conversation to community, like this is going to happen. What does community want this to look like? So it was really about that. And then in our conversation earlier today, we talked about a variety of different things, including asking Jared from the DOJ if he would be willing to present a little bit of the history, a little bit of his experience with the settlement agreement, because a lot of people who we anticipate coming to this meeting may not, it's probably not their full-time job to look at the settlement agreement and to look at community-based policing and all of the intricacies that go on there. But they're still interested in, even sometimes these conversations get way down the alphabet of X, Y, and Z. But Jared's really excellent at explaining A, B, and C in a really coherent way so that people can get on the same page and then have that rich discussion during the same time frame of the allotted 2 hours.
And so the steering committee, the last steering committee, they discussed this entire process too. Because I looked at Barb's comment, and so, well, I understand that we had a conversation about body-worn cameras. I thought that it was just being introduced about the quote unquote, no longer listening session, but now whatever session it is. And so I'm just want to just understand the transparent communications to all the members. And is PCEP paying for this, or is the cities paying for this, or is COCL? Who's paying for this process?
Well, PCEP obviously doesn't pay any salaries of anybody on the COCL team, right? So that's, the COCL is separate from that. We, as PCEP, would probably pay for the ASL services, the sign language interpreters. And I think that's something that we could help co-sponsor. But I don't know that it's going to cost money to have speakers there, to have, we would obviously ask Jared to volunteer his time, and so we wouldn't have to pay him. Same with Sarah and the other speakers who would provide information. Sorry, Jared.
Well, let's see what Jared has to say, and then we'll move on to Judith. Is that okay with everybody? All right, Jared.
Yeah, that's fine. I raised my hand because I wanted to respond when I heard Shailene mention something about this being a DOJ decision. It really, I don't think is. And I also heard Zainab say this is getting siloed, or this issue might be getting siloed in this committee. And I don't think that's necessarily accurate too. There's going to be multiple opportunities to provide community engagement. This PCEP COCL partnership is one. I understand that perhaps each council member of the 5 might also do some of their own specific outreach for community input on body-worn cameras and what it should look like. It is a remedy the United States is going to insist on for some of the problems that happened in 2020 in terms of forced reporting and forced review and lack of accountability. That type of evidence that body-worn cameras provides for an officer's interaction, we think is necessary in order for the city to comply with the agreement, and in any event is a necessary remedy for what were substantial breaches to comply in our view. The department's going to want its own sort of community input at a later date after the city's done bargaining with the police union and they get some sort of agreement on what the city and the union think is right, it may very well not agree with what the United States thinks is right for a body worn camera program. And we listed, I think, 7 principles of what we believe would be an effective remedy in a letter that we sent to the city on November 15th. And I can drag that into the chat for you all to read. And again, that doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get our way. The city's going to bargain with the police officers union, and then we're going to consider whether or not whatever they bargain for is an adequate remedy. But we do want to know what the community thinks. It's going to help inform our judgment. Some of that can happen now in the next couple of weeks. Some of that could happen in February, in March. We don't see a real time limit on community input. Even after an entire policy gets negotiated and promulgated, the United States still has its option as a plaintiff in this case and its rights to review and approve any policy to go to court and get the type of policy we think is effective. And again, that's all way down the road, probably summer, maybe fall at the earliest. And after that policy is promulgated, there's another time for review and comment for the public. So that part of the directives process is always going to be open to Zainab and other members of the community to chime in at that point. I do want to mention a little bit of why the compliance officer is getting input now. It's because the city, I think, desires this input now as it goes into bargaining with the union so that it knows what types of policies to push for in its negotiation with the union. The union, we sort of know what they want in terms of policy principles, and I could talk about those, but I think it'd be a little bit in the weeds. Right now, I think we're talking about process, and I want to assure you there's going to be a lot of opportunity to provide community input. And again, I'm open for your community input at any time as individuals. If you want to get together and host your own town hall, Zainab, with the Kukatanen group, I would come to that and listen to what you all think is the most appropriate way to have body worn cameras be a tool for accountability, which we believe they need to be as a remedy for the non-compliant. So I hope that answered some questions. Theo, I'm sorely disappointed I'm not getting paid for this, but I'll live with it. You fed me very good in the prior 3 years when we were able to meet in person. And again, I do want to just assure everyone there are going to be a lot of opportunities for community engagement. I don't think this PCCEP forum is the only one, but I do encourage you to participate. I think Shailene has done an excellent job with her team putting together a survey and trying to get the word out. I will be there on the 23rd. I will be there at the Settlement Agreement Policy Committee next week. And I am always open to hear community input and to present to your groups. If you have your own little group that you want to, form outside of the PCCEP, I will make myself available. The Mental Health Alliance, I see Rochelle, Dr. Silver's here. They hosted their own community engagement forum a couple weeks ago. I think they had 70 people there, and I was there presenting with a few other folks. And I expect the AMAC might do something. They've been interested in some of these issues, making sure that there's accountability. And again, if any of your groups want to do that outside of PCCEP, let me know. And I think let Shailene know. I think she would be interested in participating in some of that. Maybe I don't want to volunteer you, Shailene or Nia, but yeah, I want this not to be limiting. And if that message has come across, I think that's a miscommunication, because I think there's a lot of time to provide input on this.
Judith, I saw that your hand was up, and then there is Sarah, your hand is up, Theo, and then Zainab.
Mine came down, so you can go to Sarah.
All right.
Oh, I just wanted, Jared basically, said this is the opening, the opening of the community input on this round of body worn camera discussion. And he's right, we did want some early input in January there's going to be a survey that's going to be translated into 4 languages that is going to go out around the same time as the community forum that COCOL is organizing. And we've been working very closely with them, but we anticipate that there will be further input, both probably through COCOL, but then through the policy review, a lot of, community forums. And I think this is going to be an ongoing discussion as the policy is not going to take place for quite some time.
All right.
Yeah. And anybody, and on this first round, Shailene's been very open about like, oh, well, who do you know here and who do you know there and how can we get the word out? And, who knows other people? And so how, it's all about just like getting the word out as much as we can and getting the invitation to participate in the forum and participate in the survey as broadly as we can. No, right now we haven't even talked to, PCCEP about using any of their money. So don't worry about that. There are some funds in COCL and in the city attorney's office to make sure this happens. Thanks.
Right. Bill?
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, we thought it would be good for Shailene and Nia to just come to the meeting. We asked them last second, just like 2 hours ago, if they would come to this meeting because we didn't, we thought it would be interesting to try to solicit information from young people about body cameras, right? So this certainly wasn't going to be the only subcommittee that we invited Nia and Shailene to speak to, but Gloria had mentioned previously that she'd like to hear from young people about what they thought about body cameras, what they would need in a policy that was implemented by the city. So it would be good to solicit information from young people. So I just wanted to mention that because that perspective doesn't really get heard very often. You don't really hear from young people about their thoughts and specific policy decisions in PPP. Yes. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Let me see. Where's my girl?
I'm going to speak up.
Yes.
Really quick. Yeah. Let me just say some things before because I'm really trying to understand a lot of these policies and things that are being thrown out in different ways and because I looked at the agenda just now to find out if anyone was on the agenda about this presentation that's happening on June 23rd, and it wasn't on the agenda. And is it going to be on any agenda that PCCEP has? And again, is PCCEP I can't remember, co-sponsoring this or not? That's what my first question was. Is it a co-sponsorship or not? Based on what Shailene explained, PCCEP is co-sponsoring with COCL. And I just want to know, when did we vote on that? That's the question. When did our members vote on that? And so again, you talk to me different ways about policies and practices. I'm just trying to make sure I understand it so that we are following correctly what needs to happen. And so I have no problem people being invited to a meeting 2 hours in advance, but when other members are not here to hear this information right now, when they should be hearing it, that's my concern. And so hopefully after this meeting, you're forwarding all the details, sending emails out, communicating to all members about what's happening on January 23rd. Jared, it wasn't that I felt that this is being siloed to racial equity. What I'm saying to you right now, it is. It has been. Because this is the first time that I'm seeing and meeting Shailene. And I'm sorry, I see you, Nia Franco. I appreciate knowing and learning that you're new to COCL and new to this operation since October. But again, not having a formal meeting at any of our meetings that I know I've been at. And I know I've been at them. I just have a little concern there. But I'm hoping that the conversations that have already sparked about body-worn cameras have given more impetus to why this needs to happen and why it needs to happen widely, not just in Portland, but in Oregon in general. But there's no content. I'm not contending or going against what's happening. I'm just saying, how do we spread the word so that everyone on our committee who are members know about this and we're all on the same page? Okay, thank you.
Gloria, if I can, I put my hand back up to answer Zainab's question. My understanding is that we originally were approached by the COCL when the old steering committee was in place. They started conversations and wanted to have it be part of a subcommittee. And Theo, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. Of the settlement agreement subcommittee. She wanted to do it and have the subcommittee co-host it with COCL. we didn't meet with Shailene, me and Theo and Claudia didn't meet with Shailene and Nia or anybody else about this until last week. And we did get emails from COCO asking us to consider the dates. And they wanted it to be a separate event, not a subcommittee event for COCO. So of the settlement agreement. So, and I do know, I mean, things happen quickly, and it's part of why we have a steering committee, is to make sure we can, you know, respond to some stuff when there's a quicker time going. And we thought that, and this is just now kind of the chickens are coming to roost, as it were. And yes, then, and Nia and Shailene have agreed to come tomorrow to the steering committee meeting. Unfortunately, the next general meeting will be after the event, but we will also have, we are definitely going to let people know. We were waiting to land on a date, because the minute we say something's going to happen, then everybody wants to know the date. And when, so we were hoping we'd get that clarified and we could send out information with all of that engaged with it. But it wouldn't, it also, I hear your question, Zainab, about the process. And if you have concerns specifically about PCCEP doing any kind of co-partnership with the COCO on this, I hope you'll speak to that, because that is, I'm sorry, the settlement agreement, they call it the SAP subcommittee, the SAP subcommittee. I'm not big on acronyms, but yeah, so that is, and if you are, I understand the process issues, but if you have concern in general that it's inappropriate in any way for PCCEP to work to support getting this information from the community, I think we should definitely be talking about that at the steering committee meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to spend any more time on this. It's just more, I'm hoping that everyone on our committee learns about this. Again, as you just shared, it's a very last minute ask, but I like for everyone to be a part of it and be able to participate. Because anyways, I think we got it.
Okay, Rochelle, before we go to I saw another hand, but before we go there, Rochelle, it's so nice of you to be here tonight. Did you have something you wanted to say before we get ready to sign off?
No, I'm sorry I'm late. All of your meetings have changed the times that you're starting, and so I can't always come and be here on time, but I would ask that Claudia and Theo please upload the recordings to the YouTube so I can access them there. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Was there anyone else who had a hand up? Perhaps I didn't see it, that wanted to say something before we close out? Barb, your hand is up.
Yep, it is. It's because I had something I wanted to say, which is that I would like to see in the future this debacle not happen again, where we have basically a single member of the PCCEP communicating with the COCO and making plans between what the COCO and a particular subcommittee are going to do without the project manager being involved and without other staff and other people that know what's going on. So I just want to try to change the culture of the way you guys are working sometimes to improve it to a much more collaborative than a one-off way.
All right. Judith?
I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand down, and just to say, we assumed that tomorrow we would have this be under new business. So it's not on the agenda currently, but that's hopefully what the new business is for.
Okay. All right, now people, if no one else has anything else to say, we've gone 5 minutes over our time allotment, so I'll see you all tomorrow.
We'll look forward to that, Gloria.
Thanks, Gloria. Claudia, if you can send that flyer, I'd like to get it. Do you have that? Did you